Welcome to the season 20 preview show where we're going to go through and preview out the season to be 20th anniversary season of the Dodgeball League. We're getting ready to go. And as you see who made the cover, Coach Halim of the Dizzy Devils. They're in good position. He's made some very shrewd moves and it's going to be interesting. You're going to see a lot of the Dizzy Devils this year, I expect. Let's look at the rankings. And you have Phoenix at the top of the rankings. First time they've been at the top. And then the Dizzy Devils number 2. And a lot of people are just saying it's because of the Hans Greeley that they're number 1, but it remains to be seen. And then you got the Silverbacks, who didn't make a change this year. Just look at all the northern teams in the top 11. All five teams. And it was just like that last year. None of them had a bad finishing position last year. So they're for real. Everybody else is kind of evenly spread out. It's not really a weak division. You could say the South is kind of a weak division. I believe the Checkers are underrated where they are at 15. Dragonfish, they're a pretty good team. So it should be good, man. It should be a fun season. Look at the Combine. No records broken, really. Yeah, Boss got a Chile and Dobney cleaned up throwing wise, and Santos, who's ended up pretty good, best ranking out of the Combine. Gennaro Suero won the Combine, and he's, the whole offseason was really about Gennaro Suero in Mexico and Santos. Suero led his team to the NCDL championship, went on to win the Combine, and then Santos out of Mexico was taken first in the draft. And so the Diamonds, and look at all the Villas. The Toros could have had a high draft pick. The Reapers could have had a high draft pick. But Skylarks, they were in the midst of changing over. They got 2 high draft picks. Hopefully they want those guys to be the face of the franchise now. Doherty and Bosk. Kind of an average. You had more players signed than usual. I think half the players were signed. 10 players were signed out of the team that drafted him. Doesn't mean they're all there, though. Bozzoli, he bounced around after getting signed by the Dragonfish. That was the draft. And then the tournament, Gennaro Suero he was such a steal. Taken number 10, helped a super stack Scarlet Ember to have the best percentage in the group stage. 3 shutouts for them. And then it was the Empire that set the stage and blasted off and won the whole thing. Richard, he had a great tournament, 71 index. And Vasilyev and Vito really showing out. And then Gennaro Suero, best rookie at a 64 index. Chowdhury looking good in Dragonfish land. Hans Greeley, of course. Ramsey up there for the Margays. And so let's just introduce you to the teams. So we're starting off with the North. And the North, just like last year, it's going to be an all-year playoff for them. No new coaches. Everybody's locked in. And you have the Sea Dogs that made the big move, getting Esparza and then Hansen. If Hansen doesn't just tank this year, it's going to be a pretty good stuff for the Sea Dogs. They come in at the number 5 rank, number 2 rating. Good offense, good defense, good happiness. And you look at the Empire, the money shot. They got rid of Robertson and got Somerset. Coach Ramos was like, man, I need my money shot or my moon shot. I need the player that's just going to rally and just be that solid guy. And they had the money for it. So they were able to get Somerset and they were able to pay Gerst. They renegotiated his contract, so he's long-term. So Ramos thinks he has the foundation for something great there in New York. As far as the Dizzy Devils go, they got Tampa out of free agency pretty quickly. Got rid of Raj. Well, Raj Timor left. They were at odds. And Tamp signing on. Is this going to be the Tamp of the Sea Dogs or the Tamp of the Pharaohs? Tamp, he was just kind of jumping off a sinking ship in Las Vegas. There was really nothing good going on there, so he won it out. He found himself on a championship contender. So he's going to play his old team at least twice this season. A lot of people saying it's going to be Sea Dogs, Dizzy Devils in the North Division Championship. So, and then the Blackers, they didn't make very many moves. You know, you look at Chinsu Mayer, you look at the team, and it's like, you lost Brian Titu. That's a pretty solid guy. If they draft McCormick's already looking promising. But it's just weird to have a team led by a defender. I mean, I guess that's what the Empire are doing as well, but with no real strong thrower. But Richard played his butt off in the preseason tournament. And Joel West, he's the best dasher in the league, as well as he's improving his offense. So, they have number 2 chemistry, so they're going to be deadlocked with the game plan Chinchimera lays out. Their defense is a little suspect, despite having Hamura and Madison as pretty good defenders. But it's going to be interesting to see how McCormick develops. That's really going to determine their success this year. And then you go down to the Margays, and they didn't move a piece this year. Them and the Silverbacks, only 2 teams not to move a piece. And that's, everybody's saying the same thing about the Margays. It's like you look at the roster, there's no holes in it. But this has been the thing with the Margays for years now. Maybe Pascal's not a leader. Maybe, maybe there's just something up there. But they have the team, and Cunningham's only getting better. Firth is like, I put this team together. Last year didn't work out. Let's just roll the dice again. There's nothing wrong with this team. In keeping together, they're just going to get better and better at their chemistry. Then Happiness, number 5 and number 4. Every team in the North has their strategy on lock for how they're going to win the championship. So it's going to be a wild season in the North. And let's just go through the grade and the season expectation. So Empire, they got Somerset. Big move to get Somerset. Big money shot. Moonshot to get Somerset. And then they got Wilson. They added Wilson late after Lucky Tam Boyle. They drafted Lucky Tam Boyle, and he did okay in the preseason tournament, but they got rid of him. I'm saying they could have did a little more. I'll give them a B. They got Somerset, but they replaced Somerset with Robertson. It's not that much of a change. They're pretty similar leaders in that regard. They replaced a younger Robertson with an older Somerset, so take what you want out of that. Let's just look at the schedule. The North is going to be pretty tough. I think they'll beat the Blackers. I think they're a more complete team right now. Lost to the Margays, lost to the Toros. That's going to be a good game. Lost to the Dizzy Devils. They're going to go 1-4, and then they're going to get on a hot streak here. And they got the Scarlet Ember. This team has a punishing schedule. Look at all their out-of-division games. Toros, Scarlet Ember, Phoenix. It's going to be a rough year for them. They might squeeze a win out of the Sea Dogs or Dizzy Devils. But it's going to be a long year. 4-7, long year. Margays kept everything the same. They got some contingencies for next year. They're able to trade. They got 3 good throwers. They got a couple good catchers. And it's all they need. They got a good dasher in Geelan. So, first game of the season, I think the Dizzy Devils are just rearing. I think Presley's just so young, and I think they're just going to get lost. Win here. Beat the Blackers, lost Sea Dogs. Easy win for the Skylarks. Maybe get a win here. Split the series with the Empire. Beat the Blackers again. Sea Dog loss. Win against the Reapers. Lose against the Gold just because. So it's going to be a coin flip. I think it's just going to be close, 6-5. Dizzy Devils, I think they're going to get out to a hot start. They got Tamp. I mean, you haven't seen a duo this good. Checkers going to be an easy win as the Checkers, still trying to find their footing. Sea Dogs win versus I think they're going to go 4-0 again this year. Loss for the Blackers. Beat the Margays. Weird loss for against the Interceptors. Lose against the Sea Dogs. Go on a little bit of a dip like they usually do in the late season. And then I think they might end up strong. I think the Dizzy Devils are going to be that team this year. 8-3. I give Coach Salim an A. And yeah, he attacked it A+. He did everything he was supposed to. I forgot to give the Margays a grade. Margays, I mean, they didn't have a really reason to, and they got some contingencies for the future. They didn't have a real reason to change anything, so I'll give them a A. I think the North did pretty well overall. Blackers, Chintzy Mayer in his third season. They got McCormick after losing T2. I mean, he's a 72 thrower, which is pretty good for a rook. Maybe he'll surpass West and be that second arm. They're really hoping he's a nice, he has the potential to be a nice rounded out player. He's already a 48 catcher as well. Yeah, you get what you get with Hamura. You get what you get with Richard. And they're hoping McCormick can become that one well-rounded player that they're making up for with the loss of T2. It seemed like they should have did a little more. I'm going to give them a B-. I think they're going to have a rough go at it to begin with. They get an easy one versus the Cats. Might beat the Empire second time around. Loss. I think they go on a hot streak here and make things interesting. And then the Silverbacks are going to be a coin flip if they win that game or not. They'll probably lose it 5-6. Sea Dogs. So Sea Dogs, everybody was ragging on Coach Head as if he inherited a great team and that's all he did. And he's just kind of been riding that wave entering his fifth season. But he was like, no, I got some moves. I got some things up my sleeve, He's had the immaculate play of Curtis and Miller these past couple of years, but being able to get a player like Esparza that was an all-star last year, that had such a prolific season, and being able to bring him to the fold, if he comes with that prolificness, as well as pulling Hansen, who's obviously he's aging, but he still has something to give, 51 catching, 69 throwing, just straight backcourt guy. Still giving Davin Peters a chance. I think the Skylarks did well. They traded draft picks. They got a bunch of contingencies next year coming from the captains. I'll give them an A+. They're going to be tough. They got Dragonfish. That's going to be a close game versus the Dizzy Devils. I think they start out 4-1. I think they beat the Gremlins. And they have a tough go. Yeah, I think it's going to clearly... I don't want to say clearly because the North is really, anybody can beat anybody. These guys are so close to each other. But I think it's looking like Dizzy Devils, Sea Dogs in the North Division. South. Look at all of the new players in the South. That's been the big thing about the South is just that turnover. Dragonfish immediately lost 3 players coming into the into the offseason. Cats, they flipped things around trying to make deals. The Skylarks, they knew they were going to flip things around, getting Cody Behar in there. And then the Toros actually made more moves than people thought they were going to make. And the Checkers, after an invite run, lost a bunch of players and had to replace them. So, yeah, it's just a bunch of turnover in the South. We don't know what we're looking at anymore. But Raekwon has emerged as the leader of the Checkers after shipping Ruiz out. They're hoping Bam Bang can fill that role. He's young, second year. They got Morris Tinker in there, drafted him. So their chemistry is already tight, and that's kind of surprising for a team that was just cobbled together in an offseason. None of these players have been teammates with each other before, except Brass, who was on the Checkers a couple years ago. But yeah, Toros look like the clear favorite. They have the strongest team overall, all around, especially with Reed being the do-it-all kind of guy. going to be interesting to see if Cody Behar can make his mark and just kind of set the Skylarks on a new trajectory. They got Raj Timewar kind of facing the team back home in Atlanta where he went to college. But Bosk, I mean, I think this is going to be the guy they want to lead. Vossen, he's probably on the hot seat this year, man. It's getting dicey for him. You know, these guys have been at the back of the pack as far as happiness and forget their, you know, they had a playoff run a couple of seasons ago, but Vossen has just not been able to assemble a team that wants to be there, and that's really strange. So we'll see how it goes. They got a very fast Jermaine Ost from the draft. They got rid of Somerset for some deals. They left so much money on the table. They were able to pull in Willis and Accardi, but that's, you know, Braden Snelling's your lead thrower. I mean, that's how much they failed at putting money where their mouth is and getting a good player. Dragonfish, Mark Prowler, it's beginning to seem like Prowler enjoys just changing over his team every year and still expecting to have deep playoff runs. Everybody was surprised how deep they went last year making the playoffs. And then they made the playoffs. They lost a bunch of players, and now they look even better. And they got Pelletier's dashing. Chowdhury as an all-arounder. Melisizwe finally getting his chance to shine as a thrower, lead thrower. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Dragonfish do. Start off with the Skylarks, the brand spanking new Skylarks. They may as well get a new logo and a new stadium and a new city. I mean, that's how brand new this team is. The Freeman era is absolutely over. No more Vasiliev, no more Freeman, no more Maurice, just nothing. This is a new team with a new vibe. I mean, Giuliano's still there holding it down defensively, but they got Raj Timewar coming in. They got Bosk that's already a 94 thrower. So he's already the lead thrower. He might be the lead catcher. I mean, he just might be the all-arounder if he has the trajectory they're hoping he has. Doherty, he can improve a little bit. Garcia, they got him late. But he's only in his second year, so he has some room to grow. As far as, he's a new coach. And they got rid of Lambert. Did B+. What else were you supposed to do? Time War's a pretty good star to bring in. They could have, maybe moved a little quicker, knowing they had so much cap room and everything. They could have moved a little quicker. But schedule-wise, I think they get off to a win here against two brand new teams pretty much, still trying to figure themselves out. Kind of an up and down year. Lose to the Checkers this time. Maybe pull off a win versus the Toros. Lose to the Cats. I think it's just going to be kind of an up and down year for them. 5-6, 4-7, 6-5. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Cats. It's not looking good for the Cats, man. I just don't think you bring in two guys that are 78 throwers when it's a glaring problem you have. They also have a glaring problem with defense. A lot of people say the diversified mix can work with the dedicated thrower, a dedicated catcher. But these guys are just kind of filler. Cardi's been great in the past, but I don't think he's going to be able to be great when he's required to be great, if that makes sense. I think Vossen really didn't put his time into this. I'll give him a C for the offseason. It's going to be a tough year. They get the Blackers outside of... Might pull off a win there. This might be the Vossen's last year. They get a prayer answer with the Pharaoh game there late. Maybe they go on a little run. They get smashed by the Scarlet Ember late. 4-7, most likely 3-8. Toros looking back. It's seeming like Wagner has a pattern where he's great. The Toros are great, and then they're not great. Then they're great, and they're not great. So this looks like one of his great years, entering a seventh season as coach of the Toros. Championship under his belt, 2 perfect regular seasons. He's really cemented his legacy in Texas, but they want more, obviously, and they can get more. It's going to be interesting to see if Mikado shakes out to be a better defender. You want Reed to not be the lead defender, but he's a 70 catcher. He's improving. In age 30, he's still getting better. he's still a great dasher. They bring in Nathan Assis, who's been on the sidelines for a while, but he's a 67 Dodger, so they definitely have much more defensive might. Vega just hasn't been able to keep up with Reed. They were hoping he would be the counterpoint. That's the duo they want, but he just hasn't been able to keep up. Um, they bring in Joseph, a nice leading kind of guy. He did well. I'll give him a B for their offseason. I think the only reason they're looking so good is because their division had so much turnover and they were able to keep their core pieces of Vega and Reed while building around them. Um, so I think they're going to have a good start. Cats, Skylarks. I think they beat the Empire. Checkers, they might drop. Dragonfish, I could see them going down 3-2 and then having a strong, I think it's going to be a good flexed up game against the Silverbacks. And then they're going to power through. I think they're going to have an awesome season. I think it's just going to be an easy street season for the Toros, because they know if they make the championship, they're going to host it. So that's motivation there for them. Dragonfish, so much turnover. And Prowler, not on the hot seat. It's a welcome change for the Dragonfish fans to just have a coach that they know is going to be there every year. And Prowler's establishing himself in his fourth season. He has a winning record. But yeah, being able to piece together Chowdhury, Milasizwe, and Pelletier. I mean, this guy seems like he knows how to build a team at this point. I mean, he does it every year, it seems like. So I'm going to give him an A minus maybe. Their players, it's a solid all-around kind of team, but there's no star, and I think they could have did a little better job. But they start off with the Sea Dogs. I think that's a loss. Cats, win, loss, win, loss. The matchup with the Gold is going to be interesting to see what the Gold are like at that point in the season. Win, loss, and then the easy win versus the Captains. They go crazy that game. They go 6-5. I think they'll make the playoffs. And then you got the Checkers. I mean, I think Regan did a good job. They signed Boyd Ruiz, but he was aging, and Raekwon isn't slowing down as much as they thought he would. So it's like, hey, why have two aging throwers when I could get a young thrower from the Reapers? Who's having contract disputes. So they were able to wrangle in Bam Bang and get Brass back, who is good with the team and everything. And then Morris Tinker out of the draft. Hopefully he'll turn into the defender they want. They got him at a high draft pick. And Iggy Anthony, it'll be interesting to see. People still believe him. He's only 23 years old. Came into the league young. Had a year off to sit on the bench, think about himself a little bit. So I think the Checkers did a good job, man. I think I'll give them a B+ for their offseason. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, they have a dedicated defender. They got a dedicated thrower. And then you got Raekwon rounding things out. And Tinker's a pretty good dasher. So, I mean, pretty good, man. Maybe I'll give him an A-. I'll give him an A-. I think they're going to drop some games due to their chemistry. They have good chemistry, but they have the Dizzy Devils, and they have Phoenix. I mean, they have a tough out-of-division schedule. It'll just take a long time for them to get in rhythm. They might surprise Phoenix here, but I won't bet on that. So yeah, might be a similar season. I think them and the Dragonfish are going to be battling all year. Either 5-6 or 6-5. I think they're going to be battling for that spot all year. And then we go to the West. The Division of Stars. And Santos, first pick in the draft. Reyes Santos looking like a ray of sunshine. For the Diamonds, hoping to get off a new start with new coach Greg Kinder, first-year coach. I believe he comes from college. But yeah, before the offseason started, everybody was like, okay, Phoenix has Campana, they have Greeley, they have Nagley. What are they going to flip to just solidify this team as a clear favorite for the championship? I mean, they are ranked number one, but these guys, I mean, you can't really win a championship with that many empty seats. You know, Campana's amazing. He gets overshadowed so much because he's right next to the god Greeley. But Campana's coming to his second year. He's already a 91 catcher. Insane to have two 90+ catchers on your team. The Gold, it's going to be interesting. The Gold have not lost the division in 4 seasons, but put it a better way, they've won the division 4 years in a row. But it's looking like they're not really the favorite. The Silverbacks are really good. The Phoenix really good. So the Gold are really going to have to work to be in the conversation. The Pharaohs are complete rebuild. Candleson, he is on the hot seat for sure. It's been a long time, but he's on the hot seat. He hasn't produced a single playoff win thus far. And he's taking his sweet time to start over with the new roster. So this is going to be interesting to see how that goes. Let's just jump into the team. The Gold, interesting. It's always a weird feeling when the Gold aren't looking that great. They were able to sign Charlie back and Fournier back. They had a bunch of open contracts at the beginning of the season. They knew they weren't going to be able to pay for Joseph, Hakeem, and Fournier, so they chose the youngin. Fournier, he's a 68 catcher. He's just improving every year. He's lockstep with the coach chemistry-wise. And they brought in 2 youngins, Horace from free agency, as well as... this is not updated. They brought in Macrono and Horace from free agency. Really just money plays. Both these guys were $1 million players. So here's to hoping, Bruno Horace and Macrono in their first seasons do something good. They did what they could. They leveraged some picks for later. They're kind of tapped out on just leveraging picks and all that kind of stuff, but they found a way, and they're able to secure Charlie and Middlestein and Fournier. So, it's a good triumvirate. I'll give them a solid B for their offseason efforts. They couldn't really do much. They just won the championship. They've been to 3 championships in 4 years. Sometimes you have to take a little time to reassess and build up your equity again. Starting the season off, momentum-wise, I think they're better than the Gremlins. They get an easy start. They'll look good. Diamonds, Pharaohs. Then they'll hit a buzzsaw. They probably will lose to the Dragonfish. Then they get the Diamonds and Pharaohs again. And then, it's going to be... I think they'll probably weasel their way into a winning record. They seem to do that. Let's not forget Charlie's an all-time great still. He's a great player. Middlestein's not a slouch either. And Fournier, he's just on the rise. So this team's still formidable, but they're not in their heyday. Cheryl Fascia hired Coach Kinder, 34 years old, and he came into a roster that had players almost as old as him. So trying to be a younger team now. They were able to get Santos and Robertson out of free agency. Santos, first pick in the draft, shows promise. He's already an 88 thrower, 48 catcher. And so hopefully under the tutelage of not only Robertson, but Lyons. Lyons is still around. He isn't completely folded. They got Kyle Prem, who's they originally drafted, I believe. But gave away. Maybe I'm making that up. And then Lou Washington, first year in the league after being in free agency for 5 seasons. That's ties a record for years in free agency. It's the first time a player that's never been on a team has been in free agency that long and found a team instead of retiring. So just a new haul of players. I'll give them a solid B+. You got the first pick in the draft, and you also got a power player in Robertson while keeping Lyons. I don't know how good of a pick Kyle Prem and Lou Washington are pickups. Prim's just really a Dodger. I mean, but their defense is kind of short up, 250 catchers. Um, but it's not the best defense. I mean, they're 14th best catching. So let's go through the schedule. They get a nice barometer test versus the Pharaohs. I think they're better than the Pharaohs. Lose gold. They're going to have a tough go here. I think they lose to the Reapers. Might lose to the... I mean, it's going to be a rough season. And I think it's okay. I think they might beat the gold here. Loss. I mean, they have a kind of a tough out-of-division schedule, too. So it's going to be another slow year for the Diamonds. Maybe once they add somebody to replace Washington with a draft pick, they'll be a contender. But I just think there's a lot of work for them to go, especially with not having a defense. Silverbacks, is this finally the year? They didn't move a single player. Is this finally the year they punch through and simply make the playoffs? Salazar's 28. He hasn't made the playoffs since he was 22 years old. I mean, it's crazy. He's all-time... His rating wise, he's an all-time great. He hasn't played like it always. Then you got, don't forget, Temp still on the team. You know, he's solidly not a leader anymore, but you know, it could shake out for him. Solomon, they kept by his side. He's a solid middle, not necessarily backcourt, but middle court type of catcher. Hoping they have a good season. The big mistake they made was keeping Ausonio instead of Aiden Snelling. They drafted Aiden Snelling, but put him on the trade block. Instead, going for the aging Ausonio, who many people forgot existed. So I'll give them a B- for keeping their roster intact, because I really think they could have got some younger talent in, but they re-signed Ausonio. I think they're gonna have a good... Oh man, this game versus the Scarlet Ember is gonna be a big one. Barometer test. They might be able to pull through. There, might lose Silverbacks or Gold. They might beat Phoenix again, man. And Toros, another big... They have big out-of-division matchups, man. It's a tough year for them. So even if they have a losing record, I think they'll be good enough to... You know, I think they're solid. I think their number 3 ranking's true. They still have a good Dasher and Zavitz, and Salazar, Temp, Solomon, and Ausonio's still solid. I think they can make the playoffs again. Pharaohs, obviously a rebuilding year. They're hoping that Pons Keen shakes right. Their catching squad isn't bad. Middle of the road, nothing pop out at you, but yeah, their catching's not bad. They're going to probably have the most catch attempts in the league because none of these guys know how to dodge. But their throws, I mean, you have Lawrence, Daubney, he got worse out of the after the preseason tournament. They're able to sign Salem, has been on the streets for a little bit, but you know, that's leadership mentality. They're hoping to bring in somebody. Salem and Lawrence, both longtime guys, narrow streets. You know, it'll be interesting to see. I think that either Pons Keen or Daubney will shake right, and they'll have a new star on their hands. They hope. I mean, Pons Keen was a star in college, and then Daubney had a really great combine. He has potential. So they're looking for their new Charlie. I mean, Candleson, you don't just forget a player like Charlie like that. You want to redo that and make that happen again. So interesting to see. Overall, I've been really nice today, but I'll give him a B-. You know, you lose Tamp. He just opts out. You trade your future in Mikado after 1 year. He was a good defender for you. So yeah, it's just could have been better for Candleson. He does have a winning record. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the Pharaohs don't have much win success in the postseason, but they've been a contender for years and years. I think they come out. I think they lose. The captain's a nice gimme for them. They beat the Diamonds a second time. Might beat the Gold. I mean, they might just have some. And they get the Cats outside of Division 2. Yeah, I think it's a rebuild year for them. They get the Margate's pick next year. I mean, yeah, I think both them and the Diamonds are kind of looking forward to after this season when they have some of their young guys and then can add to that. Number one team in the league, Hans Greeley. Blair Campana, 23 years old, 91 catcher. If he can overtake Greeley as the primary catcher and intercept for him, this team is going to be scary. But, I mean, we saw the effects of the Skylarks and Toros last year when you have dud players like these. I mean, Abramson's young. He's 21 years old. He has a lot of room to grow, but when you have just dud players like that, it's 3-on-5, you know? When you go up against teams like the Silverbacks, it's 3-on-5. So it's going to be tough. I think they're going to stumble out of the blocks. As far as what they did, Nagley played hardball with them. They tried to get Nagley to sign so they could trade him. But he was wise to it, and he was like, I'm not going to sign. I'm just going to go to free agency. Nagley ended up not getting signed by anybody. Interesting how that worked. But anyway, Coach Smith, his 5th year. He's not really on the hot seat, but it looks like they were able to re-sign Greeley to a long. Well, they were able to sign Campana for a long-term deal, so that this isn't the one shot like everybody thought it was going to be coming into the offseason. Like, they'll have more chances with Campana and Greeley, which warms everyone's heart. But I'm going to give them a B-. I know I'm being really nice today, but they tried. Everybody tried. I mean, this is such a competitive league, and, you know, you have two great components in Campana and Greeley, and it's just hard to pay everyone else around it and keep that going. And they tried. They couldn't. B-. Stumble out the blocks with this. I think the Silverbacks are just so solid. Interceptor win. Might beat the Gold. I mean, gonna get on there. They might beat them here. Checkers. I think they're gonna get on a nice roll. 6 in a row. Then they start dropping some funny games and then win against the Empire to end it. 7-4. Yeah, I think it's gonna be Silverbacks, Phoenix. Greeley versus Salazar to finally advance in the playoffs. Now we got the Midwest last but not least. Midwest, big change is the Scarlet Ember. Are they the new guys? Are the Gremlins a shadow of themselves with with Mills and Sebastian? Are the Reapers with new coach Alexander primed to finally make a playoff run after all these years? Are the Interceptors just going to be some faded jeans this year? Captains, clearly Hearst is on the hot seat. They have so many young players. They're clearly easily the youngest team in the league. Will somebody shake out? They have 3 rookies on their team, which hasn't happened since the Sea Dogs way, way, way back in the day. Who's going to shake out of them? Aiden Snelling's already looking promising. Dumitru, he's a great dasher. So I think they're gonna spoil some hearts today. This year. Coach Hurst's 6th season does not have a winning record, but they did make the playoffs a couple years ago, and they keep just bobbing in and out of the playoffs. And he's had a good track record of rookie MVP caliber talent. So he's trusted in the draft for sure, but he doesn't keep anybody. Nobody wants to stay around. They brought in 3 rookies, and then Vasilyev out of free agency. Given what they had, they had 2 players opt out, released Soto from his expensive contract. They cut Rafa David. I'm going to give him a C+. At this point, with as many names that the captains have let run through their halls, Dil Durant, Richie Esparza, Ganesha Chowdhury, Soto, Travis. I mean, just the names that have been on this team that they just haven't been able to retain to build anything with. I mean, maybe Coach Hurst, he's a disciple of Coach Ramos, but he doesn't have strategic turnover. Like Ramos will turn over a team, but he knows who to keep. Hurst just gets rid of players and reinstitutes players, but I mean, honestly, they're not looking bad. With Miraculous is a 73 and Snelling is a 73 thrower. If they both improve, this is going to be a not bad throw squad. Now, look at their defense. It doesn't exist. They're going to have a rough go at it without a defense. I mean, how are they going to win any of these games? That might be a win, but probably not. I mean, it kind of depends. They have so much young talent. You don't know who's going to get good on them. I think they're going to surprise the Gremlins just with some grudge match stuff because of that skunking they took a couple years ago. It's going to be a long season for the captains, primarily because they don't have a defense. Now, I think Miraculous and Snelling are going to get it shaking. Maybe Snelling can get his defensive number up and be the primary defender, but you can't win in this league without one or at least two people above 50 catching. So it's going to be a long year. The Scarlet Ember, the cream de la cream, after Coach Skinner entering his 13th season, but it's been a rocky couple years for the Scarlet Ember. I mean, 8 straight playoff appearances, and it's just been tough since. In and out of the playoffs, in and out of contention. They were in contention last year, and they just didn't do well. So, kind of burn it down. Ricky Pete opted out. Luka Hoffman was released, and they cut Rutledge. So, in day one of free agency, I mean, you have to give Coach Skinner an A+ for his performance. Day one, they signed Obama and Vito, and then they were able to steal Suero out of the draft. Remains to be seen how good Suero is, but I think he's a steal. Yeah, I think they're going to run through the Midwest this year. I think they're so talented and so multifaceted. Only thing they don't have is a dasher that might kill them against good teams like the Silverbacks. But I think they're worlds above. They might lose to the Reapers. I think the Reapers have something going on. Empire, Captains, and then they get a gimme versus the Cats. I think there's a strong 9-2. They're going to remain ranked all year. It's surprised that they come in at number 8, but they surprisingly don't have good chemistry and happiness, which is usually the hallmark of the Scarlet Ember. Gremlins, I mean, they lost Milosizwe. They couldn't pay him. Everybody knew that was going to happen. But they bring in Murdoch, who's terrible in a lot of facets. So they, and they don't have a dasher. They were trying to get Bozzoli. They couldn't nail him down. But they don't have a dasher. But Doyle's improving offensively. But these two duds, Cola and Murdoch. The fact that Rainier Cola has been on the team for 3 years now is crazy because he's not good at anything. Gremlins could have tried a little harder. They didn't do anything but lose Milosizwe and add Murdoch. I'm going to give Coach Riviera a C-. You're not doing anything. You just made a championship, and you lost, and you didn't do anything. I think they're going to get shown the door, and then they get the captains. They might be the interceptors here. They've had trouble with the interceptors historically, and this is their down year. They get a great game versus the Sea Dogs. They're going to lose. It's going to be a rough season for the Gremlins, and they might squeak something out here, but I think they're going to lose. 5-6. It's hard to play without a defense, man. Captains know that just as well, but I mean, Mills is a great defender, so they do have a superstar defender, but the duds, man, the duds really suck you. Like, they're just duds. Interceptors, they released Hanson Accardi. They traded McCarron. But yeah, they did a great job building up the defense around Kyle. But where are your throwers, sir? 30th, 20th rank in throwing. So like, what's going on with that? They added, Bazzoli's a dasher, but oh my goodness, you have no offense to speak of. To speak of. And you can't tell me a 43 Bazzoli is going to rise to the occasion because he's the only young guy that can kind of improve his ranking. C plus for the interceptors. They finally built a defense around Kyle at the expense of an offense. So they kind of, it was a seesaw. But they'll win here. I think they're going to lose a lot. Beat the Captains twice, lose to the Dizzy Devils. Reapers, they might get a win off them. Scarlet Ember might get a win off them because they're rivals. Gremlins, nah, they're not going to win both games. Not going to beat the Toros. So it's going to be a 5-6 season for them. Not going to make the playoffs. Reapers, I'm excited about the Reapers. New coach, Alexander. 5th season. He doesn't have a great winning record, but he did do that one thing where he illegally got into the playoffs by overpaying his players. So Robin Panatin's been through just ridiculous. I think it's been 5 coaches in 6 years. Robin Panatin cannot keep her composure and believe in a coach for more than one season. But Sebastian Lecce, 4th season with the Reapers. He's seen it all. And he's finally looking like maybe he's the leader of the team. Obviously, Baptiste is the guy still. They got rid of Bam Bang because Bam Bang was not happy in Oklahoma City. And they brought in a star in Ruiz, who's a great all-arounder, great dodger. But he's not the best thrower. And Lecce is hoping to become that second arm. He's hoping to become first arm. He's a competitive guy. But Baptiste has it on lock for now. And I really believe in this team. They added McCarron. I mean, their throw squad is deep. Defensively, they're okay. They're okay defensively. So I think they're going to be competitive all year. I got to give Coach Alexander a B plus. I mean, you added McCarron, you added Ruiz, got rid of the cancerous Jason, and Bam Bang, got rid of the bad Juju there. You got to remember, Coach Alexander used to work with Ruiz, so he's bringing in his guys. And they're going to have an interesting season. Lose to the Scarlet Ember, win versus the Diamonds. So they're going to be looking pretty. They're probably going to get a little too cocky, lose their way. Maybe they'll beat the Margays here. Checkers, that'll be a close game. But I think they'll go 6-5, 7-4. I think they're a solid pick for the playoffs, man. I think, honestly, this year, even though they're ranked number 14, I think they got it, man. I really do. And then, so that was all the teams. Offseason ledger, read that on your own time. And then you have the week 1 matchups. I want to thank you for tuning in. And get ready for a Devil.